Determining the degree with a table of differences. This here allows us to figure out if we have a linear equation or some other type of equation just from the table of values. Now the two that we're going to be working with in this course are the linear equations and the quadratic equations. Quadratic equations will come to in another section, and they're curved, where linear equations are straight lines. And then the third case that we're going to encounter is when we have neither of those two. So we have a few examples here we're going to work with, and then what we do is we subtract the values in the last column to get the differences between them, and we'll use that to create our table of differences. So let's look at the first example. In our first table, we look at the y column and we subtract 4 from 6. Or another way to look at it is, what do we have to do to go from 4 to 6? Well, we go up by 2. We have to add 2. To go from 6 to 8, we have to add 2. To go from 8 to 10, we have to add 2. And to go from 10 to 12, we have to add 2. This here is the first differences. This column here would be the first differences, and they're all the same. Because they're all the same, that means we have a linear equation. So plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 off the y values, that means we have a linear equation, and we don't have to go any further. Once we have the same values, subsequent values are all going to be 0. So here we know that we have a linear equation. This is going to graph as a line. Moving on to the next example, we again look at our y column. So we don't worry about our x column, we need to worry about our y column. And what do we have to do to go from 4 to 1? Well, to go from 4 to 1, we need to subtract 3. To go from 1 to 0, we need to subtract 1. And to go from 0 to 1, now we have to add 1. And to go from 1 to 4, we have to add 3. So now, our first differences, they're not the same. They're all different. So we continue making differences until we can get them the same. So moving on, 3 to negative 1. So negative 3 to negative 1, we have to add 2. Negative 1 to positive 1, we have to add 2. And 1 to 3, we have to add 2. So here, we have our second differences. And our second differences are all the same. So because our second differences are all the same, it means we have a quadratic function. This is going to be a curved function. If these weren't the same, we could keep going until we found them to be the same, but we won't always find that. We're only going to worry about doing the first or second. If these don't end up being the same by the second row, by the second differences, if the second differences are the same, you can stop there and you can say that it's neither linear nor quadratic.